Welcome to this Padel. Today we are again with Icíar Montes. We are in Club de Padel La Moraleja. Maybe it's already familiar to you. We wanted to talk to her about something that you always ask about, and is one of the first doubts that everybody has, and it's about the padel rackets, palas, paletas. It depends on how you refer to it or where you are from. And our idea today is to get to know better how to pick the right racket, how to improve your padel a little bit, and understand the moment padel is living right now. So, Icíar, you are the most laureate padel player in history, I think.
Well, about choosing the right racket, I think the most important thing as a beginner, even intermediate levels, is the weight of the racket.
Okay.
But the weight of the racket implies not only let's say the total weight, but the balance of the racket.
Oh.
Because the balance means when you weight it, if the balance is over here, no, over the tip of the racket, it means the sensation when you hold it is heavier.
Okay.
So
that happens to me on the volley, when I have it down.
Exactly. So to avoid injuries, it's better to have a balanced racket. So this is a very important topic to bear in mind. The other thing is that in general, the racket is what is it built of, no?
Okay.
And mostly the core of the racket, it has a rubber core, thick one, which is mostly EVA. They call it EVA rubber, which can be hyper soft, black EVA, white EVA, whatever. No, but let's say it's the part of the racket that gives the elasticity to the ball. When the ball hits the racket, it bounces, and then you see that it has no strings. So that's the part that gives the elasticity. So that's the core. The other layers can be different components. The most common component is carbon.
Okay.
But even carbon has a different type of carbon. You see carbon 22K, 12K, 3K. So what's the difference? Well, the carbon gives the rigidity to the bat, but depending on the fibers of the carbon in each layer, that's the
like
name.
The threads, right? Like how it's
exactly. So I know this is kind of difficult to understand. But there are other components. For example, we have aluminum, Textreme, and there are new components that are introduced in the market in the few past
here
years.
It says like black EVA, right?
See, that's the core
of texture. So that's the aluminum
that's
you were referring
Textreme, aluminized Textreme.
And then the 3Ds for the effects,
yes,
right?
Exactly. It's like it gives the sensation when you play, when you hit and you try to apply spin in the ball. It helps.
Okay.
You know. Also, you see the different, we call it moldes, no? The different forms of the racket. You have more rounded forms. This one is called, it's called the form of a tier form.
Okay.
Yeah, this one, for example, is the one that I use, is a diamond form.
Okay.
And then you have like more rounded. And also,
this would be the rounded?
It's also tier form.
Okay.
But what I was going to show is the difference in the throat of the racket. You see that this one is bigger, this one is smaller.
Yeah.
So it affects the sweet point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Once the throat is bigger, it means that the sweet point is further away from your hand.
Oh, I didn't know
See?
that.
So sometimes in beginners, it's easier if the throat.
So you call this the throat, la garganta?
Sí, exactly.
In English, I thought it was the heart. In Spanish, el corazón, right?
Well,
like,
see, we call it the throat, but it's this part. In case you use another word, doesn't matter. You just focus on this part of the racket. This means that the balance is more in the middle, in the center of the face of the racket, or it's a little further or closer to the tip of the racket. So more or less, those are the components. Also, the frame of the racket Mostly is 100% carbon,
Okay.
because it's the part of the racket that well, we knock it, we hit it, all the impacts, even with the, you know, when the walls, when there are like brick walls, you know, that so it has to be very rigid. So it's, and the rest of the components, they always have kind of how do you say, glass fibers.
Okay.
So the racket has also glass fibers. So that's more or less.
Yeah. So what do you play with? Which is your racket right now?
This one. I use this one.
The iPro.
The iPro. This one for me has like the perfect balance between speed, which is like very. It's not rigid, but it's not too soft. It's not hyper soft. So and also the, you know, the accuracy and the precision. When you feel the ball is perfect, and for me it's very important that I have that feeling, no, when I play. But you see that it's not that I recommend a specific kind of racket, because you have to test it and to feel which one suits you best. Only take care of the weight of the racket. A racket between 355 grams and 360 is more than enough.
Okay.
Non-gender. We're not talking about gender or even strength.
Just in general.
But just to prevent injuries.
Okay. So when you pick one, how do you test it? Because I guess people go to a store and many times it's, oh, I like this one, or this is the one that X player is using, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe it's not the right for you.
Yeah, well, usually each brand has the bats for testing, because it is very important. I mean, without testing a racket, it's kind of impossible to anticipate if you're going to like it or not. They should have in every store at least some models that you could even test for I don't know, 10 minutes, and you'll get the feeling like this. So you don't need a lot of time to test a racket, but always remember the balance and the weight.
Okay. No, it's really good, more than the materials and all that.
Exactly,
and the shape.
exactly.
And I've seen that usually they recommend when you're a beginner to have a round shape it, right? Why is that?
Well, the shape of the racket, it implies that every time you hit the ball, because when you're a beginner, you don't hit the ball always in the in the middle, no. Yeah. It kind of helps you with your shots, but really nowadays, I think it doesn't affect a lot.
Yeah.
No?
No, I've seen this one, like a friend of mine, Fausto, which is now in the top 10 in the US, he's playing with the racket too. Fausto Baraldi, and Mark is more or less well known in the US right now, so it's good to talk to you about it, because many people see it but they don't have another reference, and I think it's also thinking about out of Spain. It's very interesting to get to know all this knowledge. And I wanted to know too, you were talking about the injuries. Like in general, people complain about their wrist or their elbow. How is that? Why that happens?
Well, there are many like factors involved in each person. Why do they get injured? No, so there are like two parts of the body that it's very common to hear people that they struggle or they ache or they have pain, which is of course in the arm. The arm is more related to technique, let's say. Of course, again, it helps if you use a light racket, but depending on how many times during the week you play, for how many hours, etc. But also in the technique, if your movements, if your technique is not very, let's say, natural to your body, to the biomechanic of the body, you're going to get it. Claro, it affects. But I think it is very important to, apart from playing paddle, to take care of your body outside of the court. I don't mean that you need to be in the gym for lots of hours a day, and there are some kind of how do you say, of training that helps to have your your muscles, like tonified and to do the movements that you are going to repeat again and again on a paddle court.
Makes sense.
We call it like functional exercises. We call it here in Spain, and of course I am not
an expert,
but I do it for myself,
and it works.
And I know it works. So it helps to prevent injuries. Also, because of the turnings and the rotations on court, sometimes the knee can be, the strain in the knee. Also in the ankles. So, the rotations and the small jumps. For example, when you're at net and you jump to get a bandeja,
I'm kidding.
Or the small.
I'm not there.
I don't jump too much anymore, but because there's impact also when you
change direction,
exactly,
like
when you stop. Those kind of movements. Well, you have to have your body prepared to do it on court and be as healthy as you can.
Oh, it's super interesting. Like, we could be talking about this for hours, and also I think there's also kind of a fetish thing with the rackets. Like, oh, I like it. I remember the one they have about Mexico.
Oh, that was beautiful. Beautiful
like
racket.
A piece of art. It's something you want to have at home more than playing with that, because you feel like, I don't want to touch it.
So wait for what's coming, because there is a racket that's coming about. It's the theme, the cosmetic of the racket is going to be of the fighting. You know, the fighting in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
With
La
the
lucha,
masks,
luchas,
lucha, with the masks and everything, and it is going
cool.
to be. It's a limited edition.
Okay.
So yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that, because it's a deep culture in Mexico,
Exactly.
and it's super interesting. I think Padel started in Mexico, and now is like having a second life there.
Exactly.
Like a boom. Every time I go, I'm gonna be there soon, but every time I go there, I open my Playtomic and I see more and more places and more people willing to improve and to play. How do you feel about Padel, how it's growing in the world in general?
Well, for me, what I feel, because of course I live in Spain, but because I travel around the world, what I see is like a rebirth of the sport in general, like different, like pop, different spots around the world, even in Australia, for example, or Japan. So it's very, very, very nice, and also I think it is becoming kind of a global sport, which I think we lacked until maybe 15 years ago, I'd say. No, so things they have evolved in an exponential manner. No, what we see also is, for example, if you observe which players are registered in a Premier Padel or in a FIP tournament, and you see players of different nationalities. You don't only see like the Spaniards and the Argentinians, and there are lots of Europeans, people from around the world. So that gives a lot of nuances and a lot of also of hope to the sport, no, to become a global sport and. A well-established one, you know.
Super interesting. And I was thinking about this past weekend, the US played for the World Cup qualifier against Canada and Mexico, and they made it, so good for both male and female, so good for the US. And last time we talked, we were talking about the European, so Spain won, both like men and female. How did you feel the level there? Like, because okay, more or less, we assume Spain was going to win, but at the same time, what do you see when you see, I don't know, France, Germany, Italy, how they are evolving? How is that for you?
I think we talked about it in our last video. They are the level is increasing. I was going to say year after year, but it's probably less than a year. I mean, in 6 months, suddenly everything has improved a lot, and they are like a step. They moved a step forward, no? So, for example, in this last championship, we saw Italy making it to the finals in male and female, which was. This was out of the question maybe 7 years ago, because France was better position than Italy, and suddenly the things change. But at the same time, they are so the ties are so competed, so they are very, very, the levels are like this. So it's very, I mean, it's very nice, and I say that especially in Europe, level is increasing a lot. Of course, distance, is everything is near. No, you get a 2-hour flight. You are everywhere in Europe. Many players are practicing, of course, in Spanish academies, but there are other parts of Europe where they also have their own academies, and players are training over there. And also, I think it is very important, both the private investments and the work that the federations are doing in each country, which helps the growth of the sport, no, in general.
Yeah. So this year we have a world championship.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Okay. And for you have what they call a happy problem. How to pick the players, right? Because
yes,
you have you can make 3 teams, and they could be A class. Any of the 3 teams that you could make, because it's difficult to pick. So the question is not who are they, no, it's more how do you feel about going to a World Cup with the Spanish team and seeing not just, as we say, Europe, but the rest of the world there?
Well, first of all, each time we go to a Worlds, the first thing that we feel is a little pressure, because the expectations are very high, and the rest of the world has their eyes on us, so we assume that kind of responsibility. Also, I know I have, as you say, A-class players, and I confide a lot in them. I think we kind of make like a closed, a closed team, and I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. And I have my eyes not focused only on my players, but on what is happening in the rest of the teams, of course, to know what our competitors are the closest one. But you know that for us this is a sport, so we don't go to a Worlds like knowing in anticipation that we are going to win it. No, we go there as another team, knowing, of course, that we are one of the favorites, or we've been one of the favorites for a long time, so there's history also behind us.
How many times you won a World Cup?
I think in females this is the 8th.
But you, as a player?
As a player, when I won like 5 times, but there was an open. At the same week there was an open draw and a teams draw.
Okay.
So I won it 5 times, and I also won 4 times with the national team.
Okay.
So yeah, I know. I played for many years, and I feel blessed because I had the opportunity to play with the best by my side. So it was very nice.
Too modest. So I would like to talk a little bit about the US. I know you don't know a lot about that, but you listen to people like me and all the people coming like you have. But I think right now it's not just the elite, but it's also who coach the coaches, because it's growing so fast that there are no references, and there are a lot of new coaches that come from tennis, but even there's Padel NBA, there are like different efforts pushing that, and also from the federation, but it's a country that is like a continent itself, so it's difficult.
I know.
And I think there's a need of the coach that teaches the future coaches. You are doing something similar in the UK, I think. How would you approach that? Because I think it's key. Like the Americans are open to try new things always, and that's cool. But at the same time, they get rid of things very quick. Like if they see they are competitive by default, so if they feel that they are not evolving, it's like next thing. Like they did paintball, they did like the escape rooms. So they're into paddle now, but if they see that they don't get the rebounds, they just go to another thing. And that's a big risk that we're taking right now.
I know. Well, I think that firstly this is a sport, and to build, you know, the base of the pyramid, as we usually say in a sport, it takes time. So it takes it implies investment, patience, and of course take it seriously. I mean, as you said, for me, like educating the coaches, because it is a kind of a new sport for them, is very important. So to have the head coaches over there need to be expert in the matter, no? So it's not the same. I know it's a racket sport, and I know tennis is king of racket sports, but this is a different kind of sport. So you need the coaches that have experience and knowledge, both combined, and of course are willing to invest in growing the sport, you know, from the basis, which it takes time. Doesn't mean it has to take so much time as it happened in Spain, because things are already done, so it's much easier. So the knowledge is there, so it won't take so long. Of course, and as you said, I know that people in the US, when they are keen on something, they just focus on it, and they are going to improve and get better and better in like this, no? But as I said, it's like taking care that it is a different sport, new one, but you need people that really know or has the knowledge on how to teach and the different levels of the teaching. There is a structure in the teaching and in improving of the game. So you need to know how to do it. If not, as you said, it could be like a bluff, and we wouldn't want that, because we think the US is very important for the sport.
Yeah. Once they take it, it becomes like a worldwide sport, and we've tried with soccer, with different sports in order to engage, and it's going to be also a big business. Well, like, why not? It's like more than 300 million inhabitants. That's a lot, and it's such a big market that right now we're talking about also to make it like democratize it somehow, which I think is going to be next step. Right now it's more somehow elite yet because of the
that's how it started here in Spain. So yeah,
you've been there and you've seen that. Yeah, I wish we had you in the US at some point, even just to visit and do some like coaching, you know, coaching the coaches or doing something like that, because I would like to have your thoughts after watching by yourself. You know what I mean? Like not just what we tell you, but with your knowledge, seeing what's going on and being part of that somehow.
I know, because of course we have a lot of information, but I think it's very important to know your territory. So because you need to know where the exact moment where you are in a sport. Also you have to know the people, how they behave, what do they want, how do they like it. So it's very important to have, of course, the people that are over there and they live there and they know, of course, all these kind of things. But also I think it would be good, it would be helpful if they had this kind of coaches that I'm talking about, which are a little more experienced. Of course, I know it all depends on the investment, on the money and time for everybody. But nowadays, the knowledge of the sport is in Europe. This particular sport doesn't mean it has to be like for a long time, but it would help, I think.
Yeah. So my last question is a typical question for venture capital. It's a question I learned while I was living in San Francisco, and I love it. And it's, what keeps you up at night? Like, what worries you? What keeps you up at night?
Well, I think for me now, it's kind of, as I said before, being a former player for over 20 years, I mean, it's now the evolution and the growth of the sport, and also transferring all this knowledge of the game, that all the experience that I accumulated during those years, and it is very important for me to give it to the world. That is why I am so happy to be collaborating with the LTA in the UK, and also with other of course here in the Spanish Federation. But I would be happy to help other parts of of the world.
Yeah, I think we would make a difference. Like, as a Spaniard, we are lucky to have such a good knowledge here, to be like right now like the root of that. Because of course I would say there are a lot in Argentina, but many of them are here too. So to me, Madrid is like the world capital of Padel.
Yes,
and
it
I
is.
love it when I come. So it's not just that they come, but also evangelizing somehow, right?
Exactly.
Like that role I think is important too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Icíar.
Well,
hope to see you soon.
Thank
again.
you, Rosa. Thank you.
And before Doha maybe, or I don't know if I will make it. I would like to go. I'll try to go and cover that.
Okay.
That
would be
I think
nice.
it will be interesting, yeah. And support the teams, you know, like tell the stories and try to do the content there. If I can, I'm gonna do it. So hope to see you there or before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.